We are live. Amir's going to show us his greatness and hopefully no API keys.
There's no API keys here. um, but there's always an opportunity to. I had to change an API key the other day because I completely exposed it. All right, why is it not? Do you have to approve screen shares now or something?
Oh, I
It's
just
weird.
I gotta check this little box.
Gotcha. All right. I think it's pretty obvious what this is
Dude,
here.
let's go.
All right. So, right, because this is tough, right? Getting your tax data is tough.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be, right? It really doesn't have to be. It could just be right here, and you could just have it, and then you could just generate reports on it. What's cool, right? So can sort by, so it only pulls in the years that you actually have tax data, which to me, that makes sense, right? Why would
Yeah.
I go back? But let's say, let's just make this easy because 2024 data is pretty easy to work with right now. So let's do the month of January. Let's apply that. That shouldn't have rendered like that, but I know why it did. But what's cool? So what's cool about it is we can do that, and then I've also got by module, and I should have picked it. I should have actually done 2023 because I have other modules in here. So like you could see like tokens and stuff. So you can see your swaps for tokens. If you did anything on the NFTs side, I track that too. But what else is cool is I haven't loaded them all yet. But if you notice, the USD value will change. It's actually, yeah. So now that is the same transaction, but in Japanese currency, in won. So I actually have to dynamically generate that list. I haven't switched it yet. It's one of the last few things I have for this. And then there's like a couple little UI things that I need to tweak and make a little cleaner. But for the most part, you do that, you generate a report
Yeah.
right there. There's your report. There's your data. So you can go in and wow, you can see one of my accounts here. You probably recognize that one. I
Mm-hmm.
reused the term splitter, bank, escrow, all sorts of stuff. So you could just see like if somebody sent you, or if you received, or if you sent or received. And this is one of the things I got to fix on my columns for reports. That it
Yeah.
actually uses that the
The currency
correct,
name.
yep, the correct currency name. It's just I just got to change, right, because I just have it statically set the field. I just got to make it dynamic. So it's really easy. But then I did want the transaction keys in here so that you can go and look those up too. I thought that would be important if you wanted to go get details. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you would need, right, to put this in a tax service. What I was hoping to do was to get like a couple of the big ones like Coinly and a couple other ones, get their format and just give a button so that I could output in their format. But a lot of them don't really share it. Like they're just like just dump your data in here and then you got to go through and set it. And I'm like, why don't you just tell me what fields you want and I can match them? But for now, I think it's good, right? I've got your data. I can generate a report for you. You saw how easy it was, right? I tried to make it easy. There's a couple filters. You can filter by date, which obviously this is 2024. And then the last piece is like a payment flow. So if you want to generate a report for 2024, you pay for 2024. If you want to do one for 2023, you pay for 2023. I haven't decided if I wanted to do like a lifetime one, but essentially, I just want to at least cover the cost because there's a lot of data, and I think people don't like. Some people are already like, "Oh my God, why are you charging me for this?" And I'm like, dude, like this data ain't free. Like even if I wanted to give this to you for free, it's not free for me. So I might as well not even do the service. But so many people have asked, like so many people ask about this. And look, for me, I wrote a script to do this for myself. I didn't have to do anything further, but I think it'll be a good value add for anybody who actually wants to track their transactions and taxes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all here, right? I've got your data. I've got up until when the Genesis block came out. So you can look up any account. And then I've got real-time price data. And then I've got 170 currencies that I can run this against. So it pegs to the dollar, and then I run a currency conversion off of the dollar. Very simple. My backend handles it, so it's not taxing on here. And it's actually really efficient on my database too to do it this way. The only thing I don't like is that it re-renders the screen, which I got to fix. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty slick little tool. It didn't take too long either.
Yeah.
Just gotta.
So I think the only thing that most of these tax things want you to have is cost basis. I'm not sure how you get that based on this information, but do you know what the cost basis is?
Like if I got 11 KDA, that's what this is right here. So if you did this transaction, so let me switch back to yeah. All right, so my cost basis for this transaction is 16.55 in US dollars. So
But
if I wanted to,
that's assuming that I didn't already, like, let's say I made a swap. So I didn't necessarily lose or gain any money, but I got 11.76 KDA, and I gave away, say, 5,000 KDL or something like that, the launch token. Then the cost basis, as far as I'm aware, for that token, and like this is, I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but the cost basis is technically zero. Because you didn't get paid in that currency. You just traded the currency for a different one. And
technically, you sold your currency at the time of value to get the new one. I was under the opinion that that's actually a taxable event. The problem is there's no clear rule on this, and you can get ruled either way, and it's like a gray area. So I wonder, and this has been one of the interesting things. So the idea for this is you're going to have to import this into a tax tool, like an official tax tool, right? This is just to get your data for that tool, right? The question becomes then, are they responsible for doing that, or is that something that I can handle for them? And I think for like a swap, what I was thinking about doing was adding another field specific for that, so that I can help you identify your swaps, so that you can action on them. And maybe we can do like a button that says like, if like these conditions, then the cost basis is 0 or something like that. I can think about that, but I really think like for me, I'm just giving you this data, and your tax tool has to figure like that's what those tax tools are for, right? Is to do that piece of it. I have not seen any like where you get data from a wallet or anything like this, and that's just auto done for you. I think the problem you're going to have is what would be nice is, and I have reached out to like Coinly, and there's another service that I use. What I was trying to do was get a conversation with them so that they could just tap into my API, because obviously I made an API for all this, and then they can do that transform automatically, and they can sync your data automatically. That's what I want, because that's the piece that's missing, right? But there's a cost for them, and there's a cost for me to do that. And so the question becomes, is it even worth it with there's so much transaction. There's actually so much transaction volume on chain, but I doubt a lot of it's actually like tracked, I guess. But really there's a ton of TX volume. And so probably be good to have something where you can actually report that. Again, I know how to get it myself, but it's not this data is not easy to obtain unless you have an indexer, or you like to do stuff manually, which I think this account has like 7,000 transactions. Try to do that manually would be insane. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to go check that out. And like I said, I think it's more when you transform your data, right, and you import into that tool, it's a decision. And so the best thing I think I can do is give you your data that you need to fulfill this in your tool, and call out if it's a swap, or if it's I have an NFT purchase, for example, or an NFT sale. But again, now you're getting very granular, very, very granular. And I think that's more like data analytics versus data dumps, essentially. And I don't really want to get into the business of doing data analytics on here. I just want to get you your data.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I don't want the extra work, to be honest.
No, that
But
makes
it's a good
sense.
idea. I think I'm gonna at least tinker with the idea where I can zero that out if it's a swap. I think that would be something I could put on my filters, like set swaps at 0 or something. And maybe instead of calling this USD value, call it a um, uh, cost basis, because
So
that's what this is.
I guess the last question would be, is that USD value based on the price of KDA right now, or did you get it to be based on the price of KDA at the time of transaction?
Oh, it's at the time of transaction.
Oh, dude, you're a
Yeah, no,
legend.
I did all of like it's all data like my database is just like here, spit it out.
Yeah.
Obviously I didn't use a structured database. So my apologies, but actually doesn't matter because this is perfect for what I'm doing. Because it's all JSON data that I'm getting. So I store the JSON, and if they change something, it won't break anything for me. At least my database. But yeah, my front end will probably be unhappy. But yeah, I like it. It looks very simple, but to get to this point is anything but very simple. Because if you don't have the data, if you don't have like you're talking, I've got multiple data sources, 3, 4 data sources that I'm correlating to get you this. And so even if I gave like my front, like I'll probably open source this, right? Because I've been going through that process of open sourcing all my code. I'll probably open source this only only because I think it's really good. Like the product itself is really good, and I want people to have good examples to go off of. And honestly, without the data, it's useless. So if somebody was going to come and compete with me, this is the last thing they would. This is not what's going to help them, right? They have to go set up an indexer, get all these transactions, get APIs set up, get those calls set up. It's a lot of work, and there's a monthly cost associated with it just to get this. But so I'm not too worried. Not too worried, but if I do, yeah, anyways, that was my show and tell for the day. I just like it. I don't think there's anything to. So yeah, so you can see I have some wizard transactions. So yeah, so I sent. So I could deduce that if I had so this is the other thing that's nice about the transaction keys is if 2 transactions keys match, like this this is a swap. Or no, it's not a swap. This is this was like a big transaction. So that's the thing that gets a little confusing, but essentially I can map these back and say, okay, I sent this, I received this, it was from the DEX because I have that in here too, just hidden. That's a swap, right? I can tell it's a swap. And so I should be able to logic that pretty easy. I'm going to add that because it's already been on my mind. But if you're going to say it too, I think it's cool. I love this. It's one of my favorite things lately.
That little button in the bottom right.
It's just a debugger for Tansac query, for old React query. So like you can go like dive into your data. So all the settings. So if you want to like refresh, like refetch things like that, like this stores a cached version of this data so it can load faster. I just got to turn a couple more things on. I'm almost there. But yeah, you can see like it shows you the data you pulled and everything, all sorts of details, and here's some settings you can configure or report on. They're configured in there, but it's just a nice like really nice it's like developer tools but specific for just this process. And
Yeah.
when you're dealing with I find like when I'm dealing with a lot of data, I like to have very, very, very specific tools personally that are meant to help me analyze what's going on. Because, you know, when you've got three or four sources of data hitting you, it it, it can be chaotic if you're not careful. So, but it just helps me kind of organize it. And I always like React queries, so figured might as well use it.
Oh, well, I can honestly say you're a legend. You're only able to build all this because of how much data you're already wrangling.
Yep. Yes, you could tell. The gray hairs are from all the data that I'm storing at this point.
Yeah.
So
There's just so
yeah.
much. So I'm impressed. I like that connect wallet button. It looks good.
So I built the site, and then Squeegee came in, and he does Vue. I do React. We are kind of like blending a little bit. So I built the site, and then he came in and styled it for me. So the credit goes to him. I broke it all when I was making some changes, and I had to fix it. But like yeah, it's cool. State change is weird, but
Squeegee's the legend too, man. You guys just
yeah.
get so much crap done. So much respect.
We're trying so hard. So, but yeah, we're just plowing through this stuff, and this is just a couple days, right? Just a couple days to do this. It's just the hardest. Honestly, the hardest part was I had one little issue that took me like 4 hours to get to the bottom of. Like it was one of those like ghost in the machine issues that just wasn't updating as it should have, and
Mhm.
I kicked my system, restarted it, came back, and it was working, and I'm like, what is what is going on here? Like, oh my god, I just wasted 4 hours, and I'm like, this has got to work. Like, I was out of options. I'm like, what do you do? And so I restarted, and I came back. Sure enough, it's like something must have cleared, and it started working again. So I don't know. Maybe my system was just tired.
Uh, those those situations.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
suck. They really do. It feels
Yeah.
nice
So,
when you come back, but in the moment
hmm
you're staring at the code, you're going cross-eyed, and you just really don't know what's going on.
no,
Yeah, stinks.
no. How's your Radix journey going?
I pretty much put it on pause for the moment to make a full shift into AI and PlayBook.
Hmm. Yep.
So I haven't done anything with Radix in a while. I know they've still been cruising. They've been making some really awesome updates to their ecosystem and stuff like that, but I'm unaware of.
It's cool. Nah, I mean, I agree with your strategy. So it's something that it's not like a buzzword so much as it's an opportunity, right? There's a lot of opportunity in
Yeah,
this space, and you might as well take advantage of it while you can.
yeah. It's a tool, and I happen to know how to use the tool, and I happen to know how to teach others how to use the tool. So why not?
Exactly.
It's the biggest impact I can have right now. So that's the path I will take.
Makes
But
sense to me.
I do still want to. I haven't worked on Playbook very much, so I haven't really made any progress. I don't necessarily have any show and tell things to make. I pivoted into making the back end, and then I ground to a halt because I'm not good at making back ends.
It's all I enjoy doing. I like doing. So I know a couple smart contract languages. I actually picked up another one. I don't know if I should say it out loud, but um, I picked up another one just for fun because why not? I like learning, and so I know Pact pretty well. I know Solidity, and I'm brushing up on that again just to fill in a couple gaps because it's been a while. And I really like the Rust-based languages at this point. Anything that's in Rust or Go, just not like a huge fan of because I understand it better, and it's easier for me to kind of put like the back end to the front end to the language to all that stuff. And Um, yeah, I really I enjoy writing smart contracts. I enjoy building APIs, and I like to initially connect them via front end or hand somebody the API and let them connect. But I like to initially do it just so I can test everything end to end and like actually see it, right? It's one thing about testing and then seeing what you're testing. I'm always a visual person, so I like to see. So I dabble in the front end stuff, but I really like everything that's servers, infrastructure, smart contracts, databases, um, APIs. That's kind of like my wheelhouse.
Hmm.
It's weird, but it's what I enjoy.
Well, you're good at it, and it shows.
I've done it for most of my life, so I'm past the period where I've done it for half my life. So I would hope I've mastered it at this point. I'm very very comfortable when you talk about scaling operations and um, how to build things that are quite complex, but need to be there. So yeah, I haven't done a lot of. The only thing I've done with AI still for a while is just image generation. I actually played with. I don't know if I should say it. I've been toying with.
Why not? What are you trying to hide things?
um, so I was playing with Llama 2, and I still am a huge fan. I absolutely
That's
despise
it's
Facebook,
owned by
but
Facebook, right? Okay, yeah.
yeah, I despise Facebook, but they did us a solid. And it's smaller context, but like the idea of these smaller context things that can run on a phone, for example, are very, very powerful. And so I like it because it allows me to do things with images like enhance your prompts, enhance your feedback, right? And figure out, is this actionable feedback or not? There's the people have put in time into building all these as like interfaces, and they give you snippets of what you can do with it. And so for me, it's nice if I want to just go dabble, and there's no real cost to me using it. And it's not necessarily the cost that concerns me so much, because I'll pay to use like OpenAI stuff and Claude stuff. I don't mind. It's more about like I want to like hammer this thing 24/7 and see what it can do, and I don't want to pay an arm and a leg. And I've got the infrastructure to run some of these things pretty powerfully,
Mhm.
and so being able to tie that back to like the Telegram bots that I'm building, the Discord bots that I have, and be able to help organize things and orchestrate things. And now I can do things like get quality feedback, right? So if I wanted a module that's like get quality feedback, I can do it without having to pay for every single interaction. And while I may host some of this stuff and I'm paying for that as well, I can do a lot more for less. Once you start really hammering these things, it does start to add up. And like for OpenAI, I actually hit a limit on what they would let me use a month. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so I had to go make it like a plea with them to get a higher limit. And I get why they do it. They don't want somebody to come in and like, oh, my kid just bought 20 apps. Can you credit me? I get it. I get it. I totally get it. But I'm also like, guys, if you see what I'm doing, like, let me spend my money. I pay my bills every month. What's not the issue? But apparently they're very strict on it. So I don't like that. So then I start looking at open source stuff, and I'm like, all right, well, if you're not going to let me do it, can I offload some of this to an open source solution that allows me to do it, commercially? So, or at least testing. And so switching out switching out APIs, right? For this process to this process. If I like the process and I know it'll work and I've tested it and I want to use OpenAI, I can switch very quickly, right? And OpenAI is very easy to work with. So that's kind of been my journey lately of sticking it to the man, but also, to myself because now I got to manage it. But
Yeah, I've had the thought to create kind of a wrapper that
mhm.
will modify my requests based on the service I'd like to use.
Mhm.
and kind of just discarded that because I don't want to do it. I, as a single person, don't care too much about trying to create something as robust as that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll just use OpenAI until I bump into barriers, and then I'll request for more.
The nice That was weird.
Welcome back.
Thanks. The nice thing, and this is where you and I probably think about it differently, is I like to. So you talk about like a wrapper. I like to build my functions in my backend, right? So my front end will always go to one of my APIs, right? And what it allows me to do is have a common interface for everything I do. And now an API can be that, right? You can use it across all your platforms. But if I want to switch using DALI 3, using Stable Diffusion, using one of the other 20,000 services that are out there, it's very easy for me. And in my API, I can specify which provider I want to use, right? Or which service I want to use. So if I wanted to support 20 of them, I could. And my front end never needs to know about any of that, right? My front end just needs to send in the request. And so you could do it there too, right? You can do it. There's nothing stopping you. However, there's something powerful, and it really lets you move fast, I think, once you set that up. But the setup time now becomes longer. If you have an issue, it becomes harder to troubleshoot. There's just more to it, right? There's more moving parts. And if you have a failure somewhere, you have a catastrophic failure. And so you have to plan for those things and have fallbacks and not run everything on one node. And it does add to the complexity. It does add to the cost. But for what I like it, just because I can switch like on a dime. And my front end can, for the most part, be reactive to that, right? It doesn't have to know that there's a different underlying service because I'm obfuscating it to my own services. So to me, I found it actually helpful, but again, it's what I do. And so I do stuff in my back end that should be in the front end. And so I'm doing the opposite way, right? I'm not all. What is wrong with my connection today? I'm not even dropping. It's just weird. Maybe I got to restart again.
Clear cache.
Yeah, clear cache. I don't know. But anyways, that's been kind of the stuff on my mind, and hopefully not too abnormal. I try not to, like, I left some of my like for this tax service. Some of it gets all your data, and then I query it. I manipulate it in the front end only, right? That's obviously I would never refetch your data if I already have it, right? That's nonsense. However, it's a lot of effort, right? I have to now take potentially 100,000 transactions, right? Think about that for a second. 100,000 unique transactions that I don't know anything about and convert the currency on them. Okay, so first I need to know what that currency delta is, and then I need some type of math operation to convert it. And so I decided, okay, I can do this. I can do this in my front end. That's not a problem. I can do this in my back end. That's not a problem. And I said, you know what the right tool for the job is I should just do it as a database operation, right? My database literally does this instantly for me. The travel time is like the internet, right? And so it's very efficient. It's very low response time. It's very low overhead, and it's fast, right? And so I think you saw, I did 7,000 transactions. I manipulated the currency, and it took like 2 seconds, right? To do all that. It looks longer when you're watching it, but it's about 2.75 seconds was the max time. And I do that because I'm checking my queries with my tools. So I made it more efficient, and I just kept making it more efficient until I was like, 2.5 seconds is really good for what I'm doing, because I'm not trying to make like the most awesome website ever. That's not the point of this. His point is to make a nice little tool for people to use, keep it cheap, keep it simple, and get it out there. And so as you think about, like, that's my approach to some of the AI tools that I like to look at too, is I can do some, most of it's not in the front end for me. Most of it is in the back end because a lot of times I put it in bots. And so I want it to be agile. I want it to be easy to move around. And I think it's more like a
Popular.
architecture. Yeah. Architecture design decision. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'm not, I never admitted I was right, but I think it's for me, it works really well because you can see how fast I move, right? When I start building things, I build them very fast because I have a lot of it done sitting somewhere, right? Where I can go reference it, I can go pull it, I can go retap a function without having to call it into my app, right? It's just there. And so I find that I'm actually, when people are like, how do you build that so fast? Just like you, because you've done it before, you've got components, you know how to apply those components, you know how to apply that logic, you could do it very fast, right?
Hmm.
Um, so it's the same concept for me. I'm just not as fast as you at some things. But when you talk about like getting data, I'm very, very fast, very efficient with that. And I'm very comfortable.
Oh yeah,
We're,
you're way better
you
than
know,
me.
we're all better at something. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even try against you or Squeegee trying to do a front end. Like I wouldn't even be like, like I'm out. I'm not even going to try because I already got destroyed and I hadn't even started. Like in my mind, I'm already lost. Because I know that's not my wheelhouse. I could do a website, could do one all day long. If you give me a nice, pretty design, I can make it pretty close, pretty close. But it will take me 10 times longer than it will take you. Just like if you come and say, "Hey, go do this. I need this API. I needed to do this. Here's the data. Go figure out how to do it." I would love that, right? That's what I enjoy doing. I don't know why. It's just probably 15 to 20 years of working in large, small to large infrastructure design, development, sizable shops. You kind of pick up a thing or two, and you realize if your foundation isn't good, everything else is trash. Like we use AWS because the foundation is really solid. If AWS had failures every week, you wouldn't use it, right? You would just be like, well, I'm wasting all my time setting up backups and stuff now to get on other services while it's down. It would be a net negative. So I view OpenAI that way. Every time I have a problem, I freak out because I'm like, oh, stop not working right now. But it does sometimes. And I have options now. Not as good, not even nearly as good, but I have options. If if I really wanted to, you could, if you had a business relying on it, you could definitely have a backup. I think that's what Claude is for me. If it were me, like running important operations, I would have Claude involved too, at like scaled size. So you're not just dependent on one provider.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're still in these early stages, and there isn't necessarily a provider. I mean, you can sit on AWS, and there's a lot of people who do that just because they have a great deal of trust. I mean, like you said, there's some kind of level there where you hit a certain scale, and then you're like, okay, we are 100% reliant on AWS right now. Is
Mm-hmm.
that where we want to be? Is it okay? And honestly, I feel like you have to get pretty fetching big before that even becomes a thought, before you even start to worry about it.
You know, so I have a lot of experience sitting in high level meetings discussing these things, right? At smaller companies, at bigger companies. I've done consulting, I've done a lot of work in that scaling, scale out, scale up, whatever you want to call it. Hyperscale. They have all the buzzwords. Cloud, it's whatever. Cloud to me is on-premise infrastructure, not in your data center, right? At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's an easy button to spin up services. I can do the same thing in my own data centers if I wanted to. It's just not going to be as efficient, and I don't have the uh, I don't have the same resources. Just like my computer, it's probably not my computer. It's probably my internet, but it's one of those things where I explain this to other people. If you break down, all right, don't think about technology for a second. Okay, think about infrastructure as a road. Okay, so I'm driving down a highway, a big road, right? I'm like a carrier level service. I'm driving down a big highway, and I need to get from point A to point B. Okay, so I need gas. I need a car potentially. I need a truck potentially. I need to pick up a payload potentially, right? So I have to do all these things before I get on the road. You could talk about that like app layers, microservices, um, you know, uh, EC3 or EC2, S3 buckets, all that stuff, right? It's all part of the outside environment. But the highway is important because I do need to get from point A to point B efficiently, right? So if you take the highway, right, this is your concern. You don't need to worry about cloud provider A, cloud provider B. You can look at their SLA and see, all that, their reporting, see their downtime, all that. You can do all that due diligence. It's important. I need to get here. And so I've got a truck full of teddy bears that needs to get there. It's almost Christmas time. I need to get from here to there. All right. So we're humming along. But I didn't do any due diligence on the highway, not realizing that I was going to hit where a bridge is out. And so now I needed to get somewhere in 12 hours. Well, now it's going to take me 16 hours. Okay. Well, now we got a real problem, right? Because kids are going to be upset. So now we need to be able to adjust, right? And so this needs to be our strategy is we need to have a backup plan for this. So we execute our backup plan. All right. All the while, you realize the only thing I'm worried about is infrastructure, right? I need to get this to the distribution center so they can get it to the stores, right? Now you're talking about load balancers and distributed networks and all that stuff. It does not matter. It does not matter if I don't get to that destination first. So we put all this focus on the distribution centers, on the front ends, on the stores, right? And we've got this highway that we can't even travel right now. We can't even get to where we're going. Or there's bumps in the road, or there's a snowstorm, a blizzard, which was predictable. But we spent so much time in the boardroom arguing over the semantics of do we have 5 highways? Do we have 3? No, we just need one highway, right? Because we have one mission, and that is to deliver these gosh darn toys to these kids, or so help me. There will be chaos, and Santa will be so pissed, right? So you break, and I've broken this down similarly, not identical because I'm getting older now, my memory's not as good, but um, you break this down for people, and they start to see like, okay, why are we worried about this so much? I'm like, it's important. You need to be able to have a storefront, but the storefront means nothing if you have no product, right? And so now you're talking about ERP systems, and I'm finance background, so I'm talking about banking systems. I'm talking about internet connectivity. I'm talking about connectivity to a data center that's critical for our mission. Those are the key things you need to worry about. But we spend more time worrying about, is the shelf right? Do we have enough product on this shelf? Should we move it here? Because that's what the executives see. That's what the finance people see. But the people who actually know, they're like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, who cares what shelf it's on? You don't have any product. What does the shelf matter? We just wasted 3 hours talking about a shelf. So that's my corporate, like, this is why I'm not corporate anymore, because I literally had these conversations with people who are so much more fancy than me just to simply say, you're wrong in a very clear way that they understand and they appreciate it, right? It's a breakdown. It's meant to be non-technical. So I connect the technical to the non-technical for people. And I love explaining it as a story, right? Here's something that everybody understands Christmas. They understand toys. They understand kids will be very upset. We don't want them upset. So let's focus on what matters. Let's get these toys to where they need to be. And then I have these line managers who are responsible for these things. Let them take care of it. They know it better than anybody. A retail store manager knows their store better than an executive in Hawaii or in some other country. I don't know. Hawaii is like because it's off the islands, but like in Alaska, like you wouldn't bother them. You would let them run their show. And so you think about like how do you structure an organization? How do you structure a project? How do you structure all these? It all goes back to experience for me, and I know if I don't have that solid road, which is what I try to build every time, the rest of it does not matter. I can have the coolest store on earth, but if it doesn't do anything, it's just a cool store. And so I break the same thing. It's you start somewhere. I have a networking background. I have an infrastructure background. I know how to code. I'm very dangerous on certain things and not as much on others. Sometimes I'm just straight dangerous if I open it up. I'm in a bad way because I like to learn and I like to try things. And so, for me, it's AI is in the same stretch right now. AI has got that highway, and it's a rocky highway because there is a lot of downtime on these tools and these services because they can't scale fast enough. And so that begs the question of, if you're relying on this as a business, it's very important to take that, what I just said, into consideration, but not necessarily, well, what will the experience be for the customer? No, no, no. We'll figure that out, right? We'll fix that. That's what our team is for. We'll make sure that we could use 5 different services and it will be the same user experience. Maybe it doesn't perform as well under load, but it's like all that stuff. I feel like that's where we're at with, they're still figuring out how to scale. I don't run a mission critical operation on it, so I don't have to worry about that. But if I did, those are all the things that would keep me up at night and that I would want to solve for so that they don't keep me up at night. Because at the end of the day, things do happen out of our control, but we have a plan. We know, I know AWS for the most part is not going to go down. So I don't worry about that as much, right? I know it's a known quantity. It's going to be up. And if it goes down, shoot, 40% of the internet's going to be down too. What do I care? Like, am I really that worried about it? So again, I'm demystifying why people talk multi-cloud. The cost of multi-cloud is it's like irreparable damage at that point. It's so expensive, so complex. You have to have engineers that know all this crazy technology. My poor network team is small. They're small.
Yeah.
They're not staffed to handle network operations across 3, 4 cloud providers. It's all different architecture, all different languages, different tools, different techniques. It's a lot. You're asking a lot, and that's where you actually end up failing, is because you thought it was a great idea, you paid for it, now you want to use it because you don't want to lose your job as an executive. Well, you should have never been in that position then to make that kind of decision, and that's again why I'm not in corporate America anymore, because they don't like being told that, even if it's the truth. All right, that's my long tangent of. I think I don't. I have like a. We didn't have any content, so I needed to add something of spice and color and
Yeah.
keep it PC.
Well, I've just been having AI write me some code while you've been writing.
Yeah, hey, that's fine.
I can-
I'm just explaining the way of the world, man. It's
Yeah.
it's a dog eat dog place out there, and I'm just living in it. So, but it's good. The AI is writing your code, so it's perfect for the topic. And I uh, I actually had some success with it when I was struggling with uh, wanting to type out really long updates. Like I needed specific formatting for something that I don't know, I don't want to talk about it, but I needed very specific formatting for something, and I just hate doing formatting, and so I gave it the parameters. I gave it a screenshot, and it spit out exactly what I needed, and I was so happy because it probably saved me an hour and a half of time, and that's superb. If anything could save me that amount of time, I'll invest a few minutes to do it, and that's all. I think it's 5 minutes. I wrote up what I wanted. It was very clear. I gave it an example, and it spit out. It was one of the little app things. One of the GPT. A little GPT helped me out. So I had some success with it last week, and I was happy. So happy
Nice.
camper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the GPT that you used?
You're asking me all these questions. I don't know. It was like let's
Grimoire?
see. No, it was not Grimoire. I'm pulling them up to see if it's in my history. It only ever shows me like the top ones. It was code code image something image to code GPT. I think that was the one. Code image analyst maybe. No, I think it was image to code GPT. Looks like I might have had that in my history.
Image to code. Makes sense.
Yeah, they're
Like,
cool. I mean, why waste your time? My ego doesn't care if AI created something that saved me an hour and a half. It's not like it's not mission critical stuff. It's just a display of something. And so for me, it was really cool. I was hoping you could help me on my Telegram bot, but I found it just caused me pain. I did it on stream, and I was showing people examples of like what it was outputting, and they're like, "Holy cow, this is bad." I know how to code it, so it's all in Node.js. So like I literally can close my eyes and code in there. So for me, it was like I'm really not saving any time, and actually probably end up spending more time figuring out what they're trying to do than actually just writing clean code. So
Okay.
I'm sure you could prompt wizard it, but it's sometimes I found it does struggle with those services like non-standard stuff. It really does. It's probably not like an emphasis on training for how do you build a Telegram bot or Discord bot. It's probably not a huge emphasis if I had to guess.
Yeah, but it still has knowledge of it.
Oh, it does. It does.
And
Absolutely.
it's got access to
Absolutely.
all those GitHub repos. And if you're really
Yeah.
struggling, then you just whip open Cursor and just say Command K and say, write me this endpoint, write me this thing, and it should be able to do all of that without an issue. No
Mhm.
problem.
It I think when things were like hairy a little bit for a couple weeks there where it was like sleep like ghosting or being lazy, what it would do is one response would give me one answer, and then the next response would completely refactor all my code into something that made no sense. And so I was like, it's like this much code. And I'm like, why did you? I asked it. I was being very, very rude, very rude,
You were text.
and I was pissed off. And so I'm like, because I was trying to stream this live, and I'm like, why are you not behaving? And I was showing it. I'm like, it's literally every time I ask it, it gives me a different code block back. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with my question or my code. And it's refactoring it to something that doesn't even work. So I was like, what are you doing? It didn't know. That was the end of it. But these days I hear it's happier. So, but I think that's all I got for this segment of who's watching our AI chat anyways.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
I'm not sure if anyone is here in particular, but still just having AI write my codes.
still can do that. So, all right, man. I'm gonna jump off. I got a few minutes, but I'm gonna go get ready for a call and gonna show some code. So it really does chop it up. I wonder why that is. Like when you share and I share, it's like hard to see.
Is it blurry or what?
It's
Chop it up.
always blurry. Everybody always tells me that for my stuff too. It's always blurry, and I'm streaming in 1080, so it's weird.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't end up in the far side in 1080.
Yeah. Oh, you can't be. It can't be. So, all right, man. Well, it's nice jumping on here for a bit, and
Yeah.
good luck on the playbook. I'm excited to see it done when it's done.
Well, I mean, it's working. I'm just trying to create some, well, I guess create a back end for it that will do all the things I want it to do.
You'll get it.
Yep. I just got to start doing 1 hour per day. 1 hour per day is enough time to really cruise.
Yep. Anything less is just hard to get into it and get going.
Yeah.
So, all right, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you'll be on Thursday. I don't know if I'll be on Thursday, but if we are, great. If not, I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Have an awesome day,
All
man.
right. You
See
too.
ya.
See ya.
Bye. I'm going to program for another maybe 15 or so minutes, just see if I can solve some bugs before I hop off. All right, so we have that. Well, to see if there was a couple of easy ways to solve my problem because I kind of want to catch acceptance. So try catch is not going to come to Godot. People have said that. There are some other ways to accommodate it, such as returning multiple types. Right now, this function only returns open AI create type response, but if I could have it return this like an error or a create type response, that would be phenomenal. It really doesn't exist yet. People are kind of working on it. And then I also dove into structs, and looks like we're adding structs pretty soon here, so I'm excited for that. All these little objects over here are all structs. I would love to have struct objects that I could use instead of needing to build it this way. It would be very valuable. Very, very valuable. Simplify a lot of the code. I'm going to call it for the day. Made some, I'm kind of just learning at the moment. I'm learning that building more complex API using GScript is not the best way to go. GScript is great for game development, but not great for data management. So I might change this over to be C# code. Just for simplicity in the long run. Godot script is still a language that's being worked on, and using a more fleshed out language like C# is definitely going to save me quite a bit of time. So that's what I'm looking at. Thanks for happening, guys. Have a wonderful Tuesday.